Cheers, guys. Epix 911. Welcome to the Saturday, January 21st, 2017 edition of VR News. We're a little late today. Wasn't a hell of a lot of news after the holidays, after CES, to be expected. Not to say that there's not stuff down the pipe. Just had to dig a little deeper today, thus took a little longer. But let's start with the big, obvious, game-related Resident Evil 7, which for those of us who have a PlayStation VR is a game many of us are excited about. Now, if I could think of one unfortunate aspect of that is the fact that it's Resident Evil 7. I'm going to explain why it's a good thing and a bad thing. First, the bad thing. So the bad thing is zombie fatigue. The game could not possibly launch at a time where there probably hasn't been this level of zombie fatigue in the last 10, 15 years, right? With your Fear the Dead, Walking Dead, numerous zombie movies, cartoons, animes, games. Zombies have been overdone. Now, for somebody like me, I personally will never get sick of zombies. I loved them as a kid. I was fascinated. I hate eating mushrooms because, to me, mushrooms, evil abominations that grow where there is no sunshine, are zombie food. That's the bottom line. There, I said it. Mushrooms are zombie food. It is the evil undead, and I will not eat that. So I've always had this fascination with zombies, right? Not to say there's not bad ones. There's bad zombie movies, bad zombie games, but give me a good plot, throw in zombies, I'm there. That's kind of my take on it. However, the other end of the spectrum, take my buddy Exidy, he of Friday Gaming Night. He hates zombies right now because he is absolutely zombie fatigued. Hasn't watched The Walking Dead, could care less, doesn't want to play a game if it has zombies in it at all. That's the kind of apathy, or really downright, I don't even want to give it a chance, unfortunately, that Resident Evil 7 is launching into, which sucks because it's the first real AAA game on any virtual reality platform to launch, and it launches at a time when zombie fatigue is probably at its highest ever. And unfortunately, that's going to be held against virtual reality. Whether that's unfair or not, I think personally it's unfair because you're not apples to apples at that point, right? So yeah, that sucks, but all the more reason for those of us who do like it to get it and support it. I know I'm going to buy it day one because, like I said, I like zombies, and early reports say it is very much along the lines lengthwise as Resident Evil 4. It clocks in around 15 to 17 hours, just like that game did. Perfect. That gives me a couple of weeks based on the amount of free time that I have to play. That's value for my entertainment dollar. I got no problem with that. I'm just worried how well it's going to do. And, you know, I'll mention this in another video about Cambridge Studio and rigs and, you know, why Sony closed them down. I know why now. I didn't for a few days and it bothered me until I put my thumb on it. But we'll cover that in another one. Just suffice it to say, Resident Evil 7 needs to sell good, and I hope to hell it does, which is the final thing I'm going to say on that. Are PC users going to be able to play the game? I would say yes, but it's probably going to be a period of exclusivity of about 6 to 12 months would be my bet. But when it does launch for PC, I'm pretty confident it's going to be Steam VR, and it's going to be both Rift and Vive, not just one or the other, which would be good. So those of you like me who have a PlayStation VR, is it a game you're going to buy? Let me know in the comments below. Interested in what you think about it. Or are you somebody, you don't even have to have a PlayStation VR, that is also, like Exidy, suffering from zombie fatigue? And I guess the other ones would be vampires, right? With Twilight and every other frickin' thing out there. All right. Next up, haptic feedback and tricking the brain. So really, really good podcast. This is the Voices of VR podcast from Kent By on Road to VR. I've told you guys many times about that podcast and how much I personally like it. He is speaking to the CEO of GoTouch VR. They're a company that specializes in haptic feedback devices. Their CEO, Eric Vizzali, he's got a PhD in haptics and basically articulates his ambitions, his vision for haptics with Kent in this podcast. Have a listen. If you've got 30 minutes, you're bored, you want something to listen to in the background, get on over to Road to VR, have a listen. Very interesting topic because that's what it's all about. It's all about tricking our little monkey brains to believing we're somewhere where we aren't. That's all that it boils down to, tricking ourselves. So very cool. They just get into it in a little bit more technical, but described in layman's terms, which just makes it fascinating. All right, next news story. Dear Angelica, this is a virtual reality 360-degree movie, animated short, whatever you want to call it, from Oculus Story Studio. So it's their latest VR film, out now for free on the Oculus Rift. Look, if you're somebody who's got the Rift and all you've kind of done to date is played games on it because you've checked out a few 360-degree videos and you thought they were pretty crappy, fish lensy, I'll wait a year or two until it gets better. Well, this is better. This is the high end of that spectrum, not the low budget porn, horrible fish lens effect 360. This is the good stuff. So if you're at all interested, give it a shot. Gina Davis, who, hasn't had a lot of big roles lately, is a pretty decent actress. She does voiceover for this. It looks really good. I'm definitely going to check it out myself. Next news story. This is just an update. Samsung Gear VR. Available on Amazon for $53 US, down from $95. If you have a Galaxy S6 or S7, so like Edge, Galaxy, Note 6, or Note 5 rather, and you're interested in virtual reality, give this a consideration, even if you already have like a Rift 5 or PlayStation VR, and I'll tell you why. Now, I haven't used my Gear VR for a few weeks. I used it last night for the first time in literally a few weeks and realized how much I'd missed the device because it has its strengths. Game-wise, of course, Rift 5, PlayStation stomp all over it. Not to say it doesn't have good games, just GPU prowess-wise, in terms of better graphics, yeah, they win. But this delivers some really cool experiences. Netflix. Being able to watch Netflix laying down, staring at the ceiling is pretty damn cool because most people, well, I've got a TV in the bedroom, why would I bother? That's one reason. It's really relaxing to be able to just lay down. It's a good way to fall asleep too. But it's oddly relaxing, be able to watch something as you're staring at the ceiling, right? Plus, there are a lot of other things. We're going to touch on one of those a little later when we talk about ancient Rome. All kinds of cool experiences that the mobile solution is perfect for. Never mind the fact that you can cart it around literally everywhere. So $53 down from $95. If you were on the fence at all about this and, put some money aside for it, grab it. You won't regret it. Now, this next news story, I can relate to this in as much as it's a story about musical instruments. This one, drums. And the drummer's name is Emre Tanirgan. And he's created an app called Paradiddle. It's basically a drum app. He wanted a way to practice drums without driving his neighbors crazy. He's in a high, dense living situation. To provide that flexibility, right? And to be able to do it anywhere with little fuss, not having to cart around drumsticks and kits and all that kind of stuff. So he built this app, and it's pretty damn cool. He's got himself drumming along with the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black, which is a legendary Stones song. Check it out. Very cool. He's been funded for graphic overhauls, which he's working on next. But check it out. If you're a drummer or, want to learn drums, just a very cool app. He's going to add abilities for interfacing with MIDI and exporting kind of in the next version. But what he's got there right now, it looks a little graphically primitive, but damn, does it look like a lot of fun. So check that out using the Vive controllers or touch controllers. It's available for both platforms. Oh, and quickly, yes, the reason I said I can relate to that is, in my 40s, picked up my daughter's guitar. I'd been gathering dust and started, I guess March will be 1 year. And even though I haven't played for a few weeks now, it's one of those things, every time you practice, you make progress. And that's the kind of cool thing with this app. With drums, same thing. This would be a good way to not just get extra practice in, but improve your skill set. And this next story, these are not really awkward. I'm a Dutch guy, right? And everybody knows about Amsterdam's red light district, so don't even have to explain that. I got no problem talking about sexual stuff. However, it gets a little weird when you're talking VR and sexual stuff or adult topics in general, right? But I'm going to tackle this story anyways. And I think the last porn story was probably about 3 months ago, which is kind of crazy because you think the industry would be all over this. Now, they were early on, but it was that horrible, as I said earlier, fish lens 360. You'd be laughing so hard, you probably wouldn't be able to be productive, if you get my drift. So that was then, this is now. What have they done all these months later? Well, there is a company, and they specialize, I'm going to say this with a straight face, guys, teledildonics. It's not actually a word, teledildonics. And if you're wondering, Epix, what the hell is teledildonics? You're not alone. I didn't know what that was either before today. Now I do. And unfortunately, short of brain bleach, I'm not going to be able to get rid of it. So I'm going to share it with you guys. So teledildonics is a way for an adult movie persona or media, so the movie itself, to basically interface with you at home. And if you're using one of these technological gadgets, whether you're a woman or a male, if you catch my drift, the movie or the entertainer via webcam sends a signal to you that activates said device at certain strength levels. In other words, it's creating a more intimate experience, if you can call it that, with a straight face, a more intimate experience because it's now gotten a lot more personal, right? You've got that person at the other end able to literally create something, which gets into all kinds of stuff about what is cheating, but that's not for me. That's for Ricky Lake and all those talk show guys to talk about, not me. I'm just going to talk about teledildonics. Again, with a straight, I just lost it there. But yes, it's a thing. And look, as much fun as we make of it, because, come on, it is kind of funny, the label, it's still a given. I don't think, regardless of where you stand with regards to that, I don't think you can deny that where there's a will, there's a way. The industry is going to innovate. And this is an example of that. Now, they had been showing this unit, these teledildonics, back in 2014, but of course, the VR didn't exist then as it does now. So it kind of gave them a second life, a second kick at the can to get their products out there. So it's not just like HOTAS or Wheels. Now you've got teledildonics. That's the last time I'm ever going to use that phrase. There you go. Next up, and the last news story for tonight, guys. This has to do with ancient Rome. An app on Gear VR. Look, another app that I've personally used a lot on my Gear VR. This is Immersive. It's a free app. And what they do is just all kinds of different learning stuff. They've got a tour of the International Space Station. They bring you to different locations. This one specifically that they've created is to explore ancient Rome. Now, some of you know, based on previous ones, I'm a huge history geek, and nothing is more fascinating to me probably than ancient Rome. And my ancestors, the barbarian Celts and Germanic tribesmen in the north, doing battle, over the Rhine border, literally, with the powers of ancient Rome. But it was the city that's always fascinated me, because this is a city, guys, that had over 1 million people way back then, with sewage, with water, with so many of the modern conveniences that you and I have, that for many centuries afterwards in other parts of Europe, they no longer had until the 1800s, which is crazy. So what they've done here is, and if you've ever been to Rome, probably one of my favorite places that I ever visited, just purely on the historical level, never mind everything else, food and etc. But when you go to the Colosseum and you see this thing in front of you and you realize the history, how many thousands have died there, and the animals that perished, and the crowds, the maddening crowds over millennia since they cheered, right? Generation after generation, all lost to time except for that building. So very cool. I know I'm nerding it up, but check it out. This allows you to walk through that Rome, that ancient metropolis of 1 million plus people, which definitely wasn't all glory. They still had their issues, of course. They were modern in some ways, but they still left a lot to be desired in other ways. But being able to see the city as it once was, fantastic. And free. All right, guys, that's it for the Saturday edition of VR News. Cheers, guys.